What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Phaithful Phanatic. I am your host at Scotty Drowned. As you can see, I am here all by myself this morning. Dylan wasn't able to join me, but we're going to get into the Phillies game this evening, or this afternoon, I guess we should say. 3:05 this afternoon. I apologize. I'm feeling a little awkward because it's been a while since I did a show by myself. So just listening to myself talk, guys, help me out. Get in the comments. Let me know how you guys are feeling today about the Phillies opening day. How'd you feel about MLB opening day yesterday? I know the season officially started last week when I believe they were in Korea. I believe the Dodgers and the Padres were in Korea last week. That actually started the MLB season, but Philly season starts today. We're going to get into that. Obviously, take a look at just today's opening day game against the Braves. You got Strider versus Wheeler on the mounds. So we'll just take a look at this specific game. We had our preseason show on Wednesday, so be sure to check that out. That was Dylan Davis and George Ryder, also part of the DSM team here. They kicked off the Philly season for us there. But we'll get into this. This will kind of be like a pregame show type of thing for the Phillies. And then we're going to talk some Sixers. As you know, this is a Phaithful Phanatic show. We're going to cover all the Philly team sports. So we are going to talk about that brutal Sixers loss on Wednesday evening to the Clippers by 1 point. Thought the end was complete bullshit, in my opinion. The referees, I know a lot of people, felt a certain type of way about Kelly Oubre and his decision-making. I get that. You had Tobias open in the corner. Don't know if you guys are one of those people that thinks he should pass it to the corner. I think that's quite ridiculous. I don't think we'll be going that route. But nonetheless, the end of that game was a fiasco. You talk about the difference in the level of officiating, right? Like tight calls versus, letting guys play physical, which it just felt like Clippers were allowed to play physical. Clippers were allowed to go straight up whenever guys were going to the rack and going to the hoop and trying to finish at the rim. There was 2 times where Kelly Oubre drove into a multitude of players and no call was made, right? When he's getting body checked, arms thrown his way. So you go down to the other end, you have 2-and-1s called in the last minute of the game for Kawhi Leonard, which they're fouls. They are fouls. But so were the plays on Kelly Oubre in reverse where Kawhi Leonard was challenging him. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about tonight's matchup with the Cavs. How lucky are we that D. Mitch is supposed to return tonight in Cleveland as we take on the Cavaliers tonight? And what is a very important game, right? We're talking about the Sixers. They're trying to make the playoffs right now. They're trying to put themselves in the best position possible in the play-in tournament. So tonight's game is important. We've been seeing all the rumors, all the speculation. Even the Sixers Twitter or X account has gotten into the mix. And there's a lot of talk about Joel Embiid joining this current road trip for the Philadelphia 76ers. So what that shows me, he's one step closer to getting back on the court. If he's able to get on the plane, means the knee's not swelling up at certain levels of elevation, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm just throwing shit out there. If he's traveling on the plane, if he's going on the road trip with the Sixers, he's coming back soon. And there is reports that he's even got on the court, and he's actually playing full court ball with some of the teams. So things are looking, I don't want to say up, but it is up. It's Embiid. It's the MVP candidate. If he's anywhere close to returning, that's something to be excited about. But let's talk about the Phillies. It's their day. Let's start there first. And I have a few things I want to get into today with this game. Obviously, it's division rival Atlanta Braves. You start the season with them. Really wanted to get out to one of these games this weekend. It's Easter weekend. I'm going home to Maryland to be with the fam there. But nonetheless, I believe me and Dylan are actually going out to who do they play next Saturday? Maybe it's the following Saturday after. Anyways, their next set of home games on the weekend is the series that we will actually be at. So definitely hit us up. Keep an eye on the show, and maybe we can link up out there, guys, and get to meet a few of you guys. So, let's get into the Phillies opening day here. So we got Wheeler and Strider at the mound. I'm gonna start with what I believe the lineup will be today. I haven't seen anything official yet. Let's just check the game here and see if they have put out line. I doubt that they put out the official lineups yet. Yeah, no official lineups yet, but we've heard the one question mark in the lineup really was Johan Rojas. Then you have a few questions about where each guy will line up within the lineup. But of course, I do think we're all under the impression Johan Rojas has earned that starting position in center field, and he's going to get the start, which means he will be in the lineup. So my opening day lineup, just to be clear here, I'll list it out for you. Schwarber at DH, obviously leading off here. We're not going to change that. Trey Turner, number 2, not going to change that. Bryce in the 3-hole, JT in the 4-hole. We got Bohm in right behind JT, Stott behind Bohm, Nick Castellanos right behind Stott, and then you finish out your lineup with Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas. Now, obviously, there are some caveats. Does Merrifield get the start? I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to roll with Marsh and Rojas, but it is going to be interesting to see how Topper handles kind of that rotation, right? Like if Rojas struggles, how many games do you let Rojas struggle before you bring in Chris Pache, right? Like before you give him that opportunity. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to completely destroy Rojas if he starts slow, right? You don't want to destroy him by taking him out of the starting lineup, taking him off the field. But at the same time, you got to do what's best for the team. This is a team that is competing not only for a World Series, they're competing for the division, believe it or not. They are right there with the Braves, even though the Braves have gotten the better of them the last 2 seasons at least. That being said, Rojas is a huge question mark. He's one of the 3 things that I'm actually keeping an eye on this season with the Phillies. Obviously, at center field, you have a few options. You brought in Whit Merrifield. You still have Brandon Marsh. You have Christopher Pache. And then do they go out? Do they make any moves before the deadline? I think that's another question that can be answered. But I think for the outfield, I feel like they feel like they got their guys, at least within this group. One of Christopher Pache, or Christian Pache, excuse me, that's said Christopher. Christian Pache, one of Christian Pache and Johan Rojas will be able to make this start and make this work in the lineup. I know a lot of people want it to be Rojas with his fielding expertise. Of course, he's got a ton of skill out there in the field. But I'm interested, right? Pache had the better training camp, better preseason there. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. Can Rojas build confidence? Can he get off to a good start today? That's something that I'm really looking at here. And then consistency is going to be the key thing. Can he give you something consistent at the bottom of that lineup, which is something the Phillies have been searching for? The next thing that I'm looking at, so 3 things we're looking at coming into this season for me personally. Can the Phillies compete for the division? I just said it a minute ago, right? I think that they will compete for the division, but that is all perspective based, right? You go to the sports books. I actually want to check this right now because I'm interested if they still have the option up. Because I believe the team total for wins for the Phillies this season, I want to say it was at 92. Let's see if they still got futures up here. Team futures. Regular season wins. All right, so we do got that. So Phillies. Oh, my goodness. They actually got them down at 89.5. So the over-under, and that's minus 105. I don't know. I mean, I'm a novice baseball fan. I'm not going to sit here and act like I played baseball my whole life or that I was ever involved in the sport of baseball to be some expert here. But 89.5 wins sounds crazy to me. It sounds crazy to me. It sounds crazy low. Now, are they factoring in potential injuries? I'm just trying. Yeah, like that's well below what they won last year, and it feels like that. Excuse me. It feels like that number keeps dropping. So 89.5 wins for the Phillies over or under this year. And obviously, it's going to take well over that to compete with the Atlanta Braves in this division. Just for reference, they have the what? Let's see. They got to have the Braves up here. So the Braves over-under is at 101.5, which fair enough. They had what? 104 last year and then 101 the year before that. So they've eclipsed 100 wins each of their past 2 seasons. So 101.5, and that's at plus 100. And then the under is at minus 120. So these are interesting, right? Obviously, they're projecting the Braves to be well ahead of the Phillies. I just don't think the margin is that far, man. It's hard to calculate with a 162 game season, obviously, given the Phillies situations, right? Like you have Bryce Harper, he is still transitioning to first base. He does have the injury history, right? You have Rojas out in the field. You have the pitching concerns. I mean, you got Wheeler, you got Nola, you got Ranger Suarez, who I'm completely confident in those three. But after that, it gets a little sketchy, right? Like Sanchez is solid. Taijuan Walker is somebody we do not want to see on the mound. But that's another one of those things. Is that something you address by the trade deadline or before the trade deadline? Obviously, we just saw Montgomery go to the Diamondbacks, so they added somebody to their pitching staff that's really good. It is going to be interesting to see what the Phillies do there and how that plays out. But I don't know. I guess my question to you guys, do you think the Phillies can get to maybe not 100 wins? Like maybe the Braves can have a down year and make it a little bit easier for the Phillies to compete for the NL East here. But do you feel like the Phillies can touch 97 to 98 wins? How many wins did the Phillies have last year? Let's take a look here. Phillies wins, I believe it was 97. I could be wrong. Let's check that out. Interesting. So they went 90 and 72 last year. That was in no, that doesn't sound right? 2023, 90 wins. Interesting. Yeah, so that's right where they have the Fightins, man. It's always an injury or something that throws them off. It's really odd, but fair enough. 90 wins last year, and that was a great year for the Fightins, right? So it is interesting. The line's at 89.5. But I guess my thing is with the Phillies, and the reason I come into the show feeling this way, like 94 wins, like is that asking too much? Like 95 wins, is that asking too much? They got to take a step further, right? Like I get the goal is to win the World Series, but what are some ways that they can take a step forward in the regular season to show that they're getting closer to that goal? And I guess this is just one of those ways that I look at it. But I would say it would probably result the way the Phillies would compete for the division. They would need the Braves to underperform a little bit, right? The Braves are at 101.5. They finished with 104 last year, which is obviously spectacular. But if the Braves could come back down to earth a little bit, maybe around the 96, 98 mark, I think the Phillies could compete for the NL East. That's barring all injuries, right? Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger, Bryce Harper, all these guys, they all got to stay healthy throughout the season. And then I think you also need other guys to step up, like a Sanchez and the pitching staff. Some of that rotation, obviously guys like Marsh and Rojas continue to improve on their end. And I think you can touch the 97, 98 wins. It's a little discouraging when you think about past success, or at least the last two seasons for the Phillies, right? And what they've done in the postseason. But they have been a wild card team. It's been hard to supplant the Atlanta Braves at that top spot, and this is where we're at. But I do think when you look at the Phillies, there's arguments around the league that they have the best lineup. I mean, after the Dodgers, right? Like they have one of the best lineups in baseball. You have one of the top two pitching duos, but you have one of the top pitching duos in the MLB. You should be able to compete here, but it is a little intimidating. I think that's what it is. The Braves win total, able to eclipse that 100 mark the last two seasons. It's a little intimidating, but yeah, Darius, you're spot on. It's the Fightins, though, and you got to fight, man. You got to fight for that division, and I think that's a big vote of confidence going into the postseason this year, if they can even just compete for the division. All that being said, they haven't the last two seasons, and they've beaten the Braves in the postseason anyways. So, like, is it a necessity to win the division or compete for the division closely? Not necessarily, right? When it comes to confidence, when it comes to matchups, it's not necessarily that important. But I do think just as a pillar of how have they improved since last year, right? You could argue they went down a little bit last year, right? Like more wins maybe in the regular season. You make the postseason, you don't get as far. You don't get to the World Series last year. So it is interesting to think about how can the Phillies show signs of improvement outside of like player statistics, obviously, right? The last thing that I'm looking at for the Titans this season or going into this season, it's a little bit of what I mentioned earlier. But Ranger Suarez, can he maintain that third starter spot? I love Ranger Suarez. Is he a legit third starter for the Titans, right? He has looked great in the postseason. He's looked up and down throughout regular seasons. But he is a guy that's known to come in the clutch, man, in big moments. And that's why we love Ranger. But there was a lot of talk, Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, guys like that out in free agency that are or were available. And the Phillies, they weren't able to make anything happen yet. I'm curious if they go full-on attack towards the trade deadline and try to make something happen there to improve their pitching staff. But why not start the season, see what you have in Sanchez, see what Suarez is looking like, and see if these guys can be mainstays in your pitching staff. So I do get it, but that is something I'm looking at as we approach this season. Let's take just a closer look before we switch over to the Sixers here. I want to take a closer look at today's matchup. So I got 3 keys to victory for opening day for the Titans today here in Philadelphia against the Atlanta Braves. So the first one here, start fast. And when I say start fast, I'm talking about this lineup. You're facing Spencer Strider. We know what Spencer Strider can do. He's one of the best in baseball. But we also know what the Phillies can do against Spencer Strider, hence postseason, right? We've seen what they can do in big moments against Spencer Strider, but those are big moments. This is opening day, this is regular season, it's a whole different ballgame. But just to give you an idea of Spencer Strider versus the Philadelphia Phillies, regular season versus postseason, right? So Spencer Strider versus the Philadelphia Phillies in the regular season is 8-0. He has an ERA of 1.90, 72 Ks in 8 starts in the regular season. So obviously, great numbers, right? Like good numbers, right? He's dominating in the regular season. In the postseason against the Philadelphia Phillies, 0-3, ERA of 5.40, 19 strikeouts in 3 starts in the postseason against the Philadelphia Phillies. So obviously the Phillies have fared a little bit better against Strider in those bigger moments. But this is one of those caveats this season I feel about the Phillies is that they're coming into the season fully healthy. They're coming into the season not off a World Baseball Classic, so hopefully we don't have any, Trey Turner slumps at the beginning of the season to where we're doubting him. But that actually takes me to my next key to victory today. With all that in mind, we talk about the strong start. We talk about going at Spencer Strider, not allowing him to build confidence today and for the season against the Phillies. Can Trey Turner start hot today, man? Can he give us some juice today? We know Bryce can give us juice. We know that, Kyle Schwarber can crank one today. He can give us some juice. Can Trey Turner be that Swiss Army knife from day one, doing everything that the Titans need him to do? And that's what I'm asking for him today. Show us some great signs towards the future by starting hot today. No slump from the World Baseball Classic. No switching coasts. He's not going from the LA to Philadelphia, from the Dodgers to the Phillies. There's no team switch this year. Everything should be locked in comfortable for Trey Turner. No standing applause when he hasn't done anything yet. He's going to give us something, some juice to open the season here today. Give me the best version of Trigger Trey. That's my nickname for. I don't know about you guys. I love it. Trigger Trey, because you got to pull the trigger. He's got to be pulling the trigger today. He's got to start fast. He's got to start hot. My last key to victory here, aside from Trey Turner and the lineup starting hot and not giving Spencer Strider confidence, it's the complete opposite on the other end, right? Zach Wheeler. He's your guy. He's your ace. He's got his paycheck, right, in the offseason. He's comfortable. He's locked into Philly. Says he wants to finish his career here. Well, let's finish it strong and let's have a strong start to the finish. You look at Zach Wheeler versus the Atlanta Braves in the regular season, 12-7 in 27 starts, ERA of 3.18 in 173 Ks. Versus Atlanta in the postseason, 0-1 with an ERA of 3.65 and 15 Ks in 2 starts. So the variance for Zach Wheeler really isn't there as much as it is for Spencer Strider, regular season versus Braves versus postseason versus Braves. But I do think it's key for Wheeler to start hot, build that confidence this year. You're coming off a great season. You're coming off getting that extension that locks you in as a fighting for life. I shouldn't say for life. He did spend some time with this fucking Mets, but nonetheless, locks him up for the rest of his career with Philly. And I think he's just got to start hot. I don't think you want to give that Braves lineup any confidence. So it is imperative that Wheeler comes out and shows his stuff early today, and keeps this game under control. I think that's a big thing. Sometimes with these opening day games, you can see things get out of hand. Hence that Diamondbacks Rockies game last night, which I had a play in on the that included the Rockies as a parlay. So I had Dodgers. What was the one in the middle? Dodgers. I want to say the Detroit Tigers. Why am I forgetting my parlays now? Jeez Louise. Oh, the Dodgers. It was the first game of the day. The Orioles. That's why I'm forgetting. The Orioles, the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks allowed me to not sweat last night, which was it was great. I think I had them for money line, and then I had all three for first 5 innings money line as well, which both of those hit. So great start to the MLB season, I will say. We look to continue it on today. Damn, that is one thing I forgot today. I was rushing around this morning. I forgot a best bet for today, but I will get one together for the Phillies game this afternoon, and I'll post that on Twitter. You can find me at Scotty Drown. The nice plug there. That was easy plug. But give you a prediction for today's game against the Braves, opening day. I'm interested in your thoughts. I see 14 people out there watching. Definitely share your thoughts here in the comments. I'm interested. Do you think the Phillies, the Fightins, start the season with a W against the Atlanta Braves? It would be huge. It would be huge for confidence. Again, it's a 162-game season. It's a long season, but let's start this season with some excitement. Let's start the season building some confidence against the Atlanta Braves, the division rival. I do have the Fightins winning today at home. It's a home opener. Come on, take care of business. You got your ace on the mound. I got the Phillies taking care of business today, 5-4. Against the Atlanta Braves. So it will be a close one, maybe a comeback game for the Phillies, late hit by Trey Turner to bring somebody in and win the game. We'll see. But I do have the score at 5-4, Philadelphia Fightins beating the Atlanta Braves today. So good luck to the Phillies, man. I'm excited. I can't wait to have day baseball throughout the week again, man. It's so nice to have day sports while you're working. But let's talk some Sixers here. We got to talk some Sixers, and I know it's not the exciting point like we've seen with the Fightins, but the Sixers, right? They're coming off a 108-107 loss to the LA Clippers. In this game, you had Paul George, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 for 8 from the three-point line. Interesting enough, all these rumors after this game, right? Paul George to Philly this offseason, which is interesting. We'll talk about that at another time, of course, maybe this offseason. On Scotty Talks NBA, another plug. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube to the Scotty Talks NBA channel for all your NBA content. But that's something to discuss this offseason. Is Paul George a fit for this Sixers team? Now, fit is an interesting term because most of the Sixers roster is free agents are free agents after this season. So it's hard to say what the roster will look like. But Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid, like that's your core, and then you build around that and you see what you have left. But it is interesting, those rumors that came out after. And then shout out to my buddy on Twitter, Ryan. He actually put out a clip of the Paul George pod where he was basically hyping up Embiid and his relationship with Embiid. So it is interesting, right? Would a guy move in his late 30s from LA to Philadelphia? Mind you, he's from LA originally. Would he do that? Doesn't really make sense, right? But it is interesting to think about. Nonetheless, he had a pretty good game, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, killed us down the stretch. Maxey, 26 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 for 8 from the three-point line. Buddy Hield bounce back game here. 17 points, 3 rebounds. He was 7 for 11 from the field, 3 for 7 from the 3-point line. The main thing with Buddy Hield, man, this is the game, right? This is the game that we want to see from Buddy Hield night to night. Like, this is what I need. It doesn't have to be, the 17 points. It can be around 14 to 15 points. Give me the 3 threes per night, right? 3 3-point makes per night at about 7 to 9 attempts per night. And then just mix in some rebound and some assists. He is a decent playmaker, but hit a big 3 in that game the other night to make it close. Obviously, the Clippers finish it out with the W, but Buddy Hield did come up clutch in that game. I mean, he shot the last 3-pointer, I want to say, from like 30 feet out, man. I mean, he was approaching half court from how deep he was. The end of the shot clock, nails it. So that was a great stepping stone game for Buddy Hield. Like, I want to see that continue into tonight's game. Tonight's matchup. Kawhi Leonard in this one, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. He really didn't have a great game throughout this one, but finished strong, and that's what matters, right? He killed us at the end with 2 back-to-back and ones to ultimately close out this game. And then, mind you, I talked about it earlier, the dismal officiating, the decision the officials made to say at the 1-minute mark left in the game in the fourth quarter, the NBA officials said, the LA Clippers are winning this game. We're going to make it happen. Mind you, there was a few hiccups mixed in there by the Sixers, no doubt about that. But I'll start at the Paul George deflection out of bounds off Kelly Oubre. They say it went off Kelly Oubre. Well, the big thing here, one, you don't have conclusive evidence that the ball went off of Oubre. Stop it. Stop. If you have to sit there and look at the monitor for like 20 fucking minutes and halt the game, pause the game for like fucking 15 minutes to look at the monitor to try to make yourself see the ball go out off of Kelly Oubre, you got a fucking problem. There needs to be a time limit for these reviews. That's the first thing I'll say here. A time limit. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, you looked at it, is it conclusive or not? You can figure that out within 2 minutes, right? At least with my eyesight, I can. So, nonetheless, the ball, you can't conclude that the ball definitely went off of Kelly Oubre. The call was that the ball went off Paul George, but still, can't definitely make that switch nonetheless. And then, if you are saying that you definitely saw the ball go off of Oubre, how did that occur? Oh, that's right. Because Paul George slapped the fuck out of his hand. So if Paul George slapped the fuck out of Oubre's hand, then it's a foul. It's not out of bounds off Oubre. That pissed me off. Then the other things that pissed me off were the 2 drives by Oubre to the rack to end the game. And mind you, it's good defense. They're playing physical. They're letting them play. But they didn't do that on the other end for Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, they were fouls. They were soft fouls by Kelly Oubre, but they were fouls and ones, apparently. You go down to the other end, you have the same type of contact, you have the same type of physicality being played, you have the same exact play. Like the last Oubre foul on Kawhi Leonard to get that and one to give the Clippers the lead for good. He comes up and he jumps straight up. Kawhi Leonard's going to the side, and Kelly Oubre braces Kawhi Leonard in the air with his body. You come down to the other end. Kelly Oubre's going to the rack. Paul George jumps in the air, and he stunts Kelly Oubre's momentum with his body. That's a foul. My thing is, if you're letting him play, then let him play on the other end. Kawhi Leonard would have finished his layups without the free throws, and then you come down to this end. You don't have the free throws because no fouls were called anyways. You don't have any buckets, and the score's probably tied anyways. Nobody complains. Let him play if you're going to let him play. That's all I'm saying. Keep it both ways. But nonetheless, Kawhi Leonard, that was my point initially. Kawhi Leonard finished this game strong with a little assistance from the refs. James Harden in this game, 16 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 for 9 from the 3-point line. After the game, he says he doesn't understand why Sixers fans are booing him. I shouldn't even act confused about this because you know why? Because James Harden is completely delusional. He's delusional. Like James Harden is the epitome of delusional. You know what else he said in those post-game comments? He said, the Sixers, they just weren't trying to figure anything out. Daryl Morey wasn't communicating regarding the contract and like getting him extended and how he took a pay cut previously, blah, blah, blah. Brother, he goes on to say that now he's in LA where he feels wanted, he feels appreciated, right? Did you get an extension with LA, or are you a free agent after this season, just like the fuck you would be in Philadelphia? That's where I'm confused here. Like, the LA Clippers have not shown this immaculate amount of faith in you by giving you this supermax extension that you were trying to get out of Philadelphia. So I'm confused. But I don't think I guess what I would say, I don't think he should be confused on why Sixers fans are booing him. You quit on the team, dog. It's as simple as that. Yeah, there's been this argument, like, would you rather have James Harden right now than, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, and whoever else, KJ Martin that they got in that trade. And it's like, if James Harden had the right attitude and the right personality, I probably would feel that way. But he doesn't. And so when I look at like Nick Batum and like what he's brought to the team, Robert Covington, what he'll bring to the team when he returns, and the fact that you don't have Embiid right now anyways, so things just aren't going to look great. They're not going to look good at all. I would rather have these guys. I would rather have Kyle Lowry's. I would rather have the Buddy Hields, like the guys that want to play basketball and want to be here and just want to hoop and win, man. And that's what I'm talking about with James Harden. He's just completely delusional, man. Look at where you're at right now. Look at what has happened this season. And it's happened the last 2 seasons as well. Starts out great. James Harden's back. Uno's back. He's MVP candidate Uno again. Clippers best team in the league. Sixers were the best team in the league with Harden and Embiid. Oh, man. And then as the season dwindles down, you start to see, just like this season, the numbers start to fade. The effort starts to fade. The athleticism, the quickness, the first step starts to fade because he gets tired. And that's fine. Like, he's older. Like, it happens. But he's so delusional that he thinks he deserves like a max contract right now. He thought he was going to get that from Daryl Morey. So he thought, the thing with Daryl Morey, he thought he was so good friends with Daryl Morey that Daryl Morey would do him a favor and give him a max contract. It's delusional. He is delusional. James Harden is the epitome of delusional. Simple as that. Kelly Oubre in this game, I mentioned him a lot. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 6 for 17. After the game, though, you're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch, your grandmother's bitch. Yeah, I mean, that was the epitome of Philadelphia to me, because that's how I felt after the game. I felt like these refs completely sabotaged the last minute of the game and made it a brutal finish. But I also like the other side of Kelly Oubre after the game in the post-game presser, right? Apologizing for his actions, but also mentioning that he's just, having his head coach, Nick Nurse's back in that situation. And I think all around, I love the display from Kelly Oubre there. The assholeness, right? The ignorance of going up to the refs and doing that, right? But then also the accountability, I guess you would say, or the awareness to go back in the locker room, think it out, and then apologize for your actions. Makes sense. It was a little overreacted, but I think we all could relate to Kelly Oubre's feelings in that moment. But Kelly Oubre, man, another interesting X factor for this Sixers team, another interesting talking point as we approach the postseason, as we approach getting Embiid back, and then as you start to think about next season as well. Does Kelly Oubre fit the future of this team? It's a weird and hard and complicated question, because Kelly Oubre right now is on a minimum contract. So let's just take a look at Kelly Oubre's numbers real quick this season for a minimum contract. So for a minimum contract, easily, yeah, like duh, I'll bring back Kelly Oubre. He's averaging 14.9 points per game, so 15 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, about 1 assist per game, shooting about 44% from the field, 30% from the three-point line. So the shooting splits aren't great, right? but he is one of the best attackers on the team when it comes to getting in the paint, getting to the rim, and finishing around the rim. And honestly, without Embiid, just somebody to score the fucking basketball. Like, Maxey is the only guy out there that knows how to play basketball without Joel Embiid, apparently. But Kelly Oubre has been kind of that second guy since Embiid has gone down, which is just crazy to say here. But 15 points, 5 rebounds, 44, 30, 75 shooting splits, 1.2 steals per game. I mean, what is his value in the NBA? What is his value to the Sixers? Because I guess my worry with Kelly, and it depends what Kelly Oubre wants to do this offseason, but some bum team like the Hornets, where he came from, right? Like some team like that will see Kelly Oubre being a positive impact to this Sixers team, and they'll say, we'll give him 15, 20 million. How old is he? Let's see. How old is Kelly Oubre? 28, so he's approaching 30. We can give him 18 million a year. He's averaging 15 and 5. And that was with, Maxey and Embiid in the team, and Tobias and Buddy Hield, right? Taking shots away. He can be better than that. Like, there's some idiots out there that will think that, because the reason I say they're idiots is because we've seen Kelly Oubre in the larger role, and he wasn't able to suffice there. But I think Kelly Oubre in this role, especially when Embiid comes back, I think this larger role is what we're seeing right now in the bad shooting splits. When Embiid comes back, he's going to get a lot more open looks. He's going to see a lot more of an open lane, especially when Embiid's being double and triple teamed. So I think the shooting splits will ultimately go up with Embiid back. But I think the main thing I'm trying to get at with Kelly Oubre, less is more in a sense, right? Like if you can give him just like 20 to 23 minutes a night, he gives you 10 to 12 points, maybe 13 points on 10 shots, 8 shots a night. That is like the optimal Kelly Oubre. I don't know if that's possible with Kelly Oubre. He might just not be able to be that efficient, but he looked really great to start the season when Embiid was here, and he looked really efficient within what he was doing. Because when Embiid was here, you obviously had Tobias in the starting line. Oubre was coming off the bench, and he was that nice six-man scoring punch off the bench to start the season. So it is interesting to think about what will happen with Kelly Oubre going forward. But moving on to tonight's matchup, obviously got a matchup with the Cavaliers tonight. It's in Cleveland. As I mentioned earlier, we get the lucky occurrence of Donovan Mitchell potentially being back tonight. Let's check that. Game time decision. Darius Garland's a game time decision. And it looks like everybody should be available for the Sixers outside of Embiid. Looks like Embiid, Covington, and D-Melt. So the guys that have been out. You got the Cavs 44 and 29 right now. Just want to take a quick look at the Eastern Conference standings, see where we're at. So Philadelphia 39 and 34. They're a half game behind the Miami Heat for that 7 seed. They're about a game and a half back of the Indiana Pacers for the 6 seed. Pacers are 41 and 33 right now. In reality, man, they're 5 games back of the Cavs. Now, I'm not saying they're going to like catch up to the Cavs or anything. It's just how close the Eastern Conference is from basically the 3. I mean, you could say the 2 seed all the way down to the 8 seed with the Sixers. But nonetheless, this is an important one. You look at the Sixers. I just switched my screen like that. There we go. 4 and 6 in their last 10. They've lost 2 in a row. Yeah, you need a W. But the thing for me right now, and you can probably hear it in my voice as I'm talking through this, I can feel Embiid coming back soon. Like I can feel it. I don't know what it is. It's in my bones. Might be the nostalgic tweets coming from the Sixers Twitter, showing videos of Embiid, showing pictures of Embiid at practice. Maybe it's Embiid at the games looking fly, got his hair cornrowed like he's ready to go. I don't know. I can feel it in my bones. Embiid is returning soon. They said the beginning of April. I'm going to take their word on that. That being said, I don't want to say I've lost interest because it's not that. I know they're fighting for something important here. They're fighting for the postseason here. I don't want to say I've lost interest, but I've lost that we need to win every single game that we can without Embiid and figure it out, and we got to stay afloat and this and that. I mean, you're 4 games up on the Bulls right now. Let's see. 4 games up on the Bulls. You got your Last 2 games in March this weekend. So Cavs, Raptors, Thunder, Heat, Grizzlies, Spurs, Pistons, Magic, Nets. And then I want to go to the Bulls because that's the big thing, right? You don't want to get passed by the Bulls. You don't want to drop any further without Embiid right now. The Bulls right now, their schedule upcoming. So they got the Timberwolves on Sunday. They got the Nets tonight in Brooklyn, which I don't know, could be a loss. They finished the season in April with the Hawks, Knicks, Magic, Knicks, Pistons, Wizards, Knicks. So interesting. They got Knicks 1, 2, 3 times in the month of April. Nonetheless, they have a tough schedule too. So like that's my point overall with this and looking at the standings is that you're not at a super risk of falling below before Embiid gets back. Hopefully, right? If he's back within the first 2 weeks of April, you're not at a super risk of falling to that 9 seed or even the 10 seed. The Atlanta Hawks are even further back. So there is a little bit of a safety net there. Do you want the 8 seed? Not really. I don't want to play the Boston Celtics. I don't want to have to play 2 games to make the playoffs. If we could get to that 7 seed and surpass the Miami Heat, that would be great. You're only a half game back, but at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers. I'm gonna be happy if we can just stick in the 8th spot right now because, as we've seen, it's been horrible, man. Like this team looks lost without Embiid. The only positivity I have today is that Embiid seems like he's coming back. I can feel him coming back. You look at the Miami Heat, the rest of their season. So they finish out March with Trailblazers at home. It's probably a dub. Then they go on the road to take on the Wizards. Probably a dub. April, let's see here. Why are you showing me games that have been completed? That's weird. April, they have the Knicks, Sixers, Rockets, Pacers, Hawks, Mavericks, Raptors. So Miami Heat's schedule, I would say, is a little bit easier than even the Sixers or the Bulls coming up schedule. But hey, anything can happen if Embiid returns first week of April, next week. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe the second week. But if he returns the second week of April, maybe they win out the rest of their games. I don't know. I'm not saying that will happen, but maybe they can. Maybe Embiid comes back and he just gets straight back to dominance. I'm not sure. But the one thing I will say, the one positive for the Sixers, that light is there at the end of the tunnel. Whether that's being kicked out the postseason or Embiid returning and returning to that MVP dominant status in the postseason, the light's there. It's coming. The end is near, regardless. Like positive or negative, it's coming. The end is near. But Embiid hopefully coming back in the next few weeks and bring some light back to basketball here in Philadelphia. But guys, that's all I got for you today. I guess I should give you a pick for winner tonight. I'll say this. Embiid's joining them on the road trip. It's not the same as Donovan Mitchell actually being back on the court tonight. If Donovan Mitchell plays tonight, I do think the Cavs will win at home. That's just a lot of momentum to bring back to the team. That's their star. That's their number one. Look at it that way. Like if we were playing at home in Philadelphia and getting Embiid back, how excited would everybody be, including the team and the coaches? So this is the same thing for the Cleveland Cavaliers on a little bit lesser scale, but still a number one star for their team. I do think the Cavs come away with the win at home. We've played the Cavs well this season, even without Embiid. So there is a chance, especially with Garland and D. Mitch being game time decisions. But as of right now, with the idea that Mitch is returning, I'll go with the Cavs in this one. But that's going to be it for this episode of the Phaithful Phanatic. Thank you guys for all tuning in. Didn't get too many comments today. I see 16 people viewing. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, DSM Media Philadelphia, for all of your Philadelphia sports coverage. We will be back Monday morning with the Phaithful Phanatic, and we'll break down the entire Phillies and Sixers weekend, maybe get into a little bit of March Madness results because we had some of that finish out last night, and then we got some more tonight. So big weekend of sports, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Go Fightins. Happy opening Phillies Day, baby.